Hello everybody, my name is Atlas and welcome on back to another video. So, well, typically I never really have a good excuse for not uploading for 36 days. I do this time. I was actually visiting my dad over in Italy for about 2 weeks. A few days after I landed back at home, Italy has issued 10 different red alert heat warnings in cities across the country. You could say I barely escaped the heat wave, but that would be incorrect, because I live in Phoenix, the flaming city that is a living testament to man's hubris. And just like the rest of the southern United States, we are also going through a massive heat wave that could potentially break 100 different heat records. Of course, I myself am completely fine. But the point I'm trying to make is that plenty of places across the Western world are being impacted by these record-shattering heat waves. Of course, there are record heat waves around the rest of the world as well, obviously. But for the longest time, the Western world has, for the most part, completely turned a blind eye to the devastation climate change has caused the rest of the world. Specifically talking these third world countries in South America, Asia, Africa. And now the West is finally starting to actually see more and more of these consequences of not taking action on climate change, right? God, I fucking love CNN. I love how the headline is about how American tourists are disappointed about not being able to do more sightseeing. That's awesome. You have these record-breaking heat waves that literally killed 62,000 Europeans last year, and might even be more deadly this year. But the main concern, folks, the real issue, is that Americans will have to stay inside a few hours during the middle of the day and be able to see a few less landmarks on their vacation. CNN, truly the deity of journalism, truly. Incredible stuff.
Temperatures are climbing and expected to top 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit in Rome. Italians have named the heat wave Cerberus, after a figure in Greek mythology that guarded the gates of hell. Officials say the best way to combat the heat is with water, and Rome has no shortage of that. Rome has more than 4,000 public water fountains with drinkable water, and Rome's Civil Protection Agency has an app that will help visitors locate the closest one.
One nice thing about Rome is about how much access there is to drinking fountains. Like, when I visited the Spanish Steps, there's this incredibly beautiful fountain at the foot of the Spanish Steps. And we could literally just walk up to the fountain, turn on a tap, and fill up our water bottles with cold, fresh, clean drinking water. Like, how do you get that shit to be cold? Like, it's like a fucking 110 degrees out. What the hell? Like, how is it still cold? I don't fucking know. I'm kind of a dumbass. But the point is, it's a nice thing. And it's like, maybe we could have nice things like this if, our military budget wasn't literally larger than the entire Turkish economy. Or if corporations paid more than 0 taxes. Or if we had an economic system that was actually functional. I don't know, man. Maybe we could have those nice things. A weeks-long heat wave will intensify this weekend and push temperatures close to 130 degrees. An already dangerous weeks-long heat wave will only worsen this weekend as the heat dome intensifies and reaches peak strength over parts of the western United States. The heat dome is so formidable that the National Weather Service in Phoenix called it one of the strongest high-pressure systems this region has ever seen. Around 100 heat records could fall today through the weekend as it intensifies, piling onto the more than 1,000 high-temperature records broken in the U.S. since June. More than 90 million people are under heat alerts after the heat dome expanded into places like California, which is now experiencing its first extreme heat wave of the year. It has already been dangerously hot for weeks in Texas, Florida, and Arizona, where Phoenix is in the middle of a likely record-breaking streak of consecutive 110-degree days. The low temperature in Phoenix might not drop below 90 degrees for 8 consecutive days. Another record. The records also add up into something more serious for human health, doctors say. Make no mistake about it, this heat is deadly, and being in it for long periods of time is deadly, Dr. Matthew Levy of the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine told CNN. The extreme temperatures could trigger heat illness in as little as 20 to 30 minutes for people doing anything strenuous outdoors, because heat acts as a perfect storm which overloads the body until it short circuits and then shuts down. The time frame would be even shorter for those vulnerable to heat, like the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions. Heat illness is a serious concern this weekend for the millions of residents in major metro areas like Phoenix and Las Vegas. So, while parts of the US might be somewhat more prepared for the extreme heat than Europe, it's definitely still going to be a major issue in the States. Yes, we do have air conditioning in the South, but not everyone's going to be able to just stay indoors all day. And just like most of catastrophes, the people struggling the most financially are going to be hit the hardest. Firstly, you have the unhoused, for instance. They're going to be hard pressed to find shelter from the heat, as well as the money needed to purchase enough water to stay adequately hydrated. You also have the more labor-intensive workers, including minimum wage workers at risk, those working outside in the heat, being vulnerable, as the doctor said, to heat illness after only 30 minutes of working in the heat. And most of them, obviously, can't afford to exactly quit their jobs. I mean, 40% of the United States is living paycheck to paycheck, and they probably don't have enough paid leave stocked up just to take a leave for the whole of the heat wave. Maybe some of them might, but a lot of people will not, so they will definitely be impacted. Of course, these issues could be handled pretty well with adequate worker protections, widespread unionization, adequate housing for the unhoused, and better economic aid for the poor. But under our current capitalist organization of the economy, these measures won't be implemented, at least to a degree that would be nearly effective enough. These temperatures are only going to continue to get worse if left untreated. Not only are temperatures around the globe going to get hotter, but climate disasters and rising sea levels are projected to displace hundreds of millions of people by the end of the century. And when people are displaced from their homes and forced out, obviously they need somewhere else to live, thus causing mass migration to northern nations, such as the US and Europe, those wealthier nations, more capable of standing up to the climate crisis. And obviously, given the already intense anti-immigrant rhetoric from a lot of different political movements in the West, I mean, that could generate some scary conflict as a result. That's not to say we're all doomed or anything like that, obviously. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that climate change is a very real threat, and one that is to be taken seriously. But things are changing, as more and more young people enter positions of power and voting blocks shift. The likelihood that the situation becomes better, increases, at least to a degree, right? It's also about getting educated about not only the causes and effects of climate change, but also how our systems of government and economic systems impact our ability to fight it. It's also about things like unionizing and peaceful protest. So, if we stay informed, help educate other people, support our unions, and be proactive, we'll be alright. I don't know, man. I'm not a mystic that can see into the future. I don't have a magic seeing ball, whatever the fuck those are called. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, hey, consider leaving a like, subscribing, or dropping a comment down below. Or all three, if you're really cool like that. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will talk to you all later. Ciao.